You have to believe you can do it, even when things seem impossible. All right, ladies, I am back, and today I'm really excited for who I'm sharing with you. Today's episode is with Carrie Green. She is the founder of the Female Entrepreneur Association. And if you are familiar in the online space, you may know Carrie herself. I was actually a member, I taught a webinar inside of her membership that she runs with the Female Entrepreneur Association. And I really value Carrie and her work ethic. She's a mother, she is an entrepreneur, but she is an outside of the box thinker. And when you listen to this conversation, you're going to realize something that I'm noticing about myself and a lot of people of what quote unquote makes people successful. And she said in a blog on her website, she thinks the secret to success is having the right mindset. You have to believe you can do it, even when things seem impossible. And in today's episode, she shares her entrepreneurship journey and the perseverance and the conviction of just continuously showing up and getting back up when you fall down. This is what I'm after, because not everyone that I work with is a business owner. A lot of women either work in corporate or they're stay-at-home moms or wherever you are, but it's an inner game. It's an inner journey. And so whether you're showing up because it's parenting that's driving you crazy, or you're just feeling overwhelmed and out of sorts in your life and you're looking for change, I'm always dissecting people and wondering, why is this person seeing results and this person isn't? And Carrie is a perfect example of somebody who has this diligent perseverance to pursue a goal. And I remember back when I started my business, there's a lot of fear around starting a business. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of, it can feel very isolating and alone, and community is key. And I remember saying to a friend, she's like, Heather, as long as you don't give up, you've already won. And she said, look at your past history. You have evidence that you have taken action. And so I'm here to tell you, whatever you walk away from today's podcast, I want you to know that anything in your life is possible if you choose to believe that it is possible. The second you give up on yourself, or the second you give up on your children, or the second that you give up on your big goal, what you are saying is, I can't. And the second you say, I can't, those are a very powerful statement to make to the universe, because I see people again and again and again say, I can't, and shit just doesn't happen in their lives. And on the other hand, when you decide to play with the universe and to manifest what you truly want and desire, you will get scared. You will get nervous. You will want to vomit and shit your pants. And if you don't, your dreams aren't big enough. So let's dive in to today's episode with Carrie Green. Go check her out at femaleentrepreneurassociation.com. That's a big one to take in. And you can find her online at Carrie Green. And also, if you haven't already, tonight, Monday, is the last night for the bonuses for Mastery and Mastery 2.0. This week, I'm going to be sharing a few extra episodes talking about it. And there's going to be some bonus episodes. But if you know that you want coaching, if you know you want your life to be easier, if you're into sales, if you're into business, then you might be a great fit for Mastery 2.0. Or if you just want to feel in control in your mind, your body, your soul, and you are ready to rock your life, then head on over to Heather Chauvin, last name spelled CHAUVIN.com /take back control, fill out the application, and we will be in touch with your next steps. All right, ladies, filling out the application does not mean you get inside of the program, but what it does mean is you are saying yes to yourself, and we will set you up with an intro call to see if it's a good fit. All right, let's dive into today's show. All right, Miss Carrie, welcome to the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so passionate about having conversations with women who are what I would say breaking the mold, but mothers as well, because I feel like it's not just going after what we want. There's an internal dialogue and kind of identity shift that we have to create in our lives. So a lot of the women here in the Mom is in Control community are trying to figure out how they can go after their dreams, like become the person that we're born to be, but also be that mother that they would love, that they yearn to be. And I feel like sometimes we're getting mixed messages as women how to be successful. So I know you're, how old is your son?
He
right?
is 19 months.
Okay, so motherhood is pretty new to you. Last few years.
Yeah.
So I want to know, like, previous to motherhood, like your story of how you came to be who you are today.
So, I think I truly stepped into who I am in 2011. Prior to that, I had started an online business in 2005. And because basically I was at university, I'd completely run out of money, and this opportunity came up to be a reseller unlocking phones. And so random. I was like, I don't know anything about phones or phone unlocking, but great, I will do this. And it kind of really helped me to see what was possible, and the fact that you could literally sit in your bedroom at university, have no clue about building online businesses and figure out how to make money online. And it just kind of blew my mind. And so I kept building this business, and it became really successful. And when I graduated from university, I continued to build it. And then I reached a point where I felt really lonely and isolated, and I didn't know anyone who was like me. I didn't know anyone building businesses. When I went to networking events, I was like, these are not my people. Like, it was mostly just men in suits, and they didn't even take me seriously, and the most patronizing things would happen. And a lot of my friends as well, they were on graduate schemes, and so they were going out with their friends and colleagues, and I was like, I have no colleagues. So then this idea popped into my head to create a platform to bring together other women like me, where we could chat over a glass of wine and talk about, what we were doing and building businesses and all that stuff. And like, nothing really existed back then that I came across at all. And then I think the doubt started, and I felt like, who am I to do this? And went down this whole rabbit hole of just like doubts and worries and fears. And for 3 years, I sat on this idea going in circles. And I got to the point where I was so low and frustrated. Like, I'm not really much of a crier, but I remember there were times I'd be sitting on my bed just crying about how much in despair I felt. And largely I was in despair because I was annoyed at myself, because I had this, when you've got that feeling inside, and it's like, something deep down is telling you that you're meant to be doing more, you're meant to be creating more, you're meant to be living a bigger life in some way. And it's there, and it's like tapping away at you, and you keep ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it, and it gets louder, like it gets louder and louder and louder, until you reach a point where it's like you come face to face with it, and you have a decision, like, am I going to finally listen to this calling, or am I going to keep ignoring it and keep feeling this frustrated with myself?
I had that moment. I mean, I think we all have those moments, right? Yeah. Where like, oh my gosh, enough is enough. I always say I'm tired of my own bullshit. And I want to ask you about that moment, because internally you'll hear people say, oh, I wish, right? And the fact that you're saying, I wish, or, oh, that would be so nice. I wish I gave myself permission to do that. I wish, I had time. And it's like, you can tell the desire is there. So what do you think that is somebody, like, we know what we want. We know what's inside of us. What was it for you to go from like, it's there, it's growing to like being able to push through the doubt?
I just got so fed up with myself. Like Jim Rohn talked about the emotion of disgust, and he kind of talked about when people have their day of disgust, it's life-changing, because when you're so disgusted by your own behavior, that's at the point at which you decide to make a change, and you can't not change. You have to change. And I think for me, I reached that point where I was so disgusted and frustrated and fed up with my own crap, and I couldn't take it anymore. Like I physically I just couldn't do it anymore. And when I reached that point, it changed everything. But it is insane. Like, why do we do it to ourselves? Like,
I don't know.
Why did it take me 3 years? Who knows?
It's interesting. It is how the human condition does that, because I'm in the process of writing a book right now, and the book has been in me for like a decade, and it's, it's a lot to pull it out and to like move through it. And I know you've written a book too. So it's like,
feeling, yeah,
it's like, oh my gosh, but it's like very therapeutic. And you're like, okay, I've been resisting this because this is something big. But as you're taking it out, it's almost like it's part of the human condition to feel the discomfort and to feel the resistance and to be able to like move through it and to like persevere through it. So when you're trying to explain to somebody, everyone talks about freedom, like, oh, freedom, like finding your purpose and all of that. You don't just like, it doesn't just show up in the mail one day. You have to like, it takes conscious effort and intention.
Yeah.
So now that you had your day of disgust, you're like, okay, no more, right? Getting out of your own way. Then what did you start to do? What were you focusing on?
So I had this light bulb moment where I realized that I wanted to turn my life around. Like, I was literally sat on my friend's sofa, and it was like, it physically felt like a light bulb had gone off, and it was like something had shifted, and all of a sudden I just knew I was going to go for it. And what I did, I mean, I love challenging myself, and I created this little challenge, and I call it my Mission Success Challenge. And it was just to see what would be possible if I conditioned myself for success and started to really like train my brain essentially to change my life. And it wasn't with a view to really doing anything specific. It was just with a view to see what was possible. And that was my only expectation. And I think that took the pressure off it all. And so I kind of first started by thinking, well, what do I actually want? Because there's this quote that Tony Robbins said. He said, in 10 years, you'll surely arrive. The question is where? And I feel like it's such a profound question, because like back then I didn't know where I wanted to arrive. And I thought, well, no wonder, if you think to yourself, like, no wonder I keep going in circles, because I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I want to end up in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. I have no idea. And so I realized that I needed to get intentional about what my dream life looked like, what I actually wanted to feel like. I knew how I didn't want to feel, but I didn't know how I did want to feel. And so I just started connecting more with that and really working on myself. So I've always loved personal development. I just went through a phase of ignoring it for a really long time. And I knew that, our thoughts and how we feel play such a huge part of like the reality we're creating for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I'd become aware of the fact that my mantra for those 3 years before I started FEA was, I don't know. Like, I constantly just said to myself, I don't know what to do. I felt lost and I felt confused. And that was like the mantra, the way I would speak to myself day in, day out. And I thought, I need to start conditioning myself in a different way if I want to move out of this situation that I'm in. And like, it's, our thoughts and feelings determine the decisions and the actions and ultimately the reality we're creating for ourselves. So I just started to look at that and think about, how do I want to feel and what do I want my life to be like? And I suppose by doing that and piecing it together, momentum began to grow. And one of the things I actually did, I'm looking at it right now, I went out and I bought a journal. And I wrote on the front page, The Diary of a Female Entrepreneur, 2011. And I was just determined to write myself a new story. And I was determined that I would turn that story into a book and get it published with Hay House. And it seemed really far-fetched, but I felt like I was on a new adventure, and it felt exciting, and I felt inspired just to see what would be possible. And obviously I knew I'd had this idea for a FEA below the surface, so I kind of brought that up and just thought, now is the time, like I have to commit to this and go for it. So I did, and then as I started to take these steps, it's like the breadcrumbs began appearing, and the pathway became clear, and I just started walking it. And isn't it crazy? I mean, I know you'll definitely experience this, but when you open yourself up, it's like you just surrender. You just surrender to it all, and you open yourself up, and all of a sudden these opportunities and ideas and things begin to flow, and you kind of feel yourself shifting and becoming a magnet for what you actually do want, and it starts to flow into your life with so much more, with ease. And I don't know, it's just this crazy feeling of like, just flowing in momentum, and you're just in that zone, and it feels so good to be in that place. And
I love this, because I remember, I actually remember being in the bathtub pregnant with my first son. This was like 15 years ago. I was 18, and all my friends are out drinking, and I'm reading a book that says, "You look too young to be a mom." This is a book that my friend gave me, and it was success stories of teen mothers. It was like the only little sparkle of hope that I had. And I remember saying to myself, I'm going to write a book one day. And just that knowing that's in there. And then it's funny, because you reflect on these moments and you're like, it was always there. I just avoided it. I avoided it. I shoved it down. I kept convincing myself that this isn't it. This isn't it. And I hear that all the time in women saying, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm like, you're using that as an excuse. Like, you do know what you want, but like you said, if you just keep repeating that mantra to yourself, of course, then you don't have to take action. Because if you actually know, then the fear of success comes up, the fear of losing people, the fear of failure, and all of that. So what is your relationship with fear right now? Like, if you had to look back at your older self, 15 years ago, what would you say to her about fear?
Well, I feel it as much today as I did back then. I'd like to say that I can move past it faster, but I'm not sure that's the case. I think I have a lot more tools in my arsenal to be able to use to help me to move through it maybe a bit faster. But
can you catch yourself now? You're like, okay, this is the process. It's coming. I know how it manifests in my body and my mind.
Yeah, I definitely catch myself a lot faster. I'm a lot more open and willing to work on it and to create that level of awareness around it so that I can move through it and move past it. Mm-hmm. And I suppose that has made such a difference. I suppose back in the day, I didn't really have any awareness around what my fears were. And I think if you don't have awareness, you don't have anything, because you've just got your head in the sand, and until you're willing to pull it out of the sand and look at it, mm-hmm. It's hard to make any changes or any progress. But you almost can sometimes need the tools to know how to pull your head out of the sand. Mm-hmm. So for me, for example, sitting down and doing self-coaching sessions and asking myself questions, and even the simple question of sitting down and writing out how I feel and any challenges or problems I'm experiencing, and then asking myself, but why do I feel this way? And then every time something comes up, but why am I feeling this? But why am I feeling this? But why am I feeling this? And just kind of going and going and going until I really get into a flow with it, and I start to really see where is this coming from? What is this really about? And peeling back the layers to a point where I feel okay, I've reached the bottom of this, and now I can start asking myself, what's the solution? Like, how do I move forward? But I didn't know that stuff back then. Like, I didn't do that stuff back then. I didn't even journal back then or do any of this. So, and also other things that really help me now are, I like will go on YouTube and watch little videos of, like, I don't know, Abraham Hicks or whoever, like visualizations, or even Jim Rohn or like Lisa Nichols, someone talking that inspires me. And doing that is so transformational. You can go and watch something for 5 minutes that is life-changing. And back in the day, but 15 years ago, I wasn't doing that stuff. So it was like I wasn't immersed in things that were helping me to actually get out of my own way. Whereas I suppose now I am. So I still get in my own way all the time. But like you said, I've got the tools there to be able to get out of my way faster.
Well, it's refreshing to hear. And I'm sure people say that to you because they're like, oh my gosh, I thought you had your life together. And you're like, no, it's like new level, they call it new level, new devil, but it's like new level, same thing. Like, you don't ever get over something. You just move through it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, if you want to pull back the layers at all, you had a very successful business before becoming a mother. How did that shift? Like, were you like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Did you have an identity crisis? Were you like having to completely rewire how you worked? What was that like for you?
Well, for me, the biggest thing was that I'm so used to creating content and sharing things that feel real, like inspirational quotes. I'm not going to share an inspirational quote that I don't resonate with and relate to. And I realized that all the content I was creating was obviously about business and how to start a business and how to grow a business and how to make your dreams come true and how to manifest success and all this stuff. And then when I had Casey, I was just like, my life right now is how to figure out how to be a mom and how to like make this work, and all I want to do is sit on the sofa and have cuddles, and I don't even want to think about work. So I was like, how do I even post out or create content, because I am not in that place I was before. And I think for me that's what I found most challenging, because I didn't have anything to say. Like, my voice just deserted me from like a business perspective, and I didn't have anything. Like, I couldn't even muster up to put out a quote about business because it felt so inauthentic. Like, it felt just didn't feel good to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a real shock for me. Like, I had planned to take quite a lot of time off on maternity leave, so I batch created a lot of content in advance, which was really helpful. And the team were amazing, so that was really good. But honestly, like, I remember, I don't know, maybe like 5 months in, I remember sitting on the sofa attempting to make my first video, like holding Casey, and I was really forcing it. And then I think about 8 months in, I'd hired a full-time videographer, and I thought, okay, now I've got a videographer, I'm going to get my act together and I'm going to start like creating content again. And so we began to create content, but it definitely was, it felt hard. Like, you know what it's like, you're
forcing it, you're pushing.
It's almost like, if you've gone away for a break and you've left your business for like 2 or 3 weeks and you've gone away on an amazing holiday, and then you come back to the business and it's like trying to get back into it. It's like, it's not that easy sometimes. So it just took me a really long time to get back into it. And I actually had to force my way back into it. But then slowly but surely it felt a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, until one day I was like, oh, I'm back, I'm in it, and I'm here. And then the scale tipped the other way, and then I was like working so much, and then I felt guilty that I wasn't spending any time with Casey. I was like, okay, I just can't win here. So I think you just have to, I just try and tell myself to just let go and stop putting so much pressure on myself and just enjoy it all more. Otherwise, what is the point in it all?
It's kind of like trying to work through a pandemic or something. You're like, what the heck is going on? Yeah. I want to go back to what you just said, because I think a lot of the women that I speak with, some of them are working in corporate, some of them are in business, some of them are stay at home, and they're like, there's more, like they can feel that pull. And there was something that you said you know when something is out of alignment, right? You're like, screw this, I'm never doing this again. But you still have the passion to build the community, and we'll definitely talk about that. I love community, like talking about community and women in community, because that's like a whole other can of worms. But you're still so passionate about the community and what you do. But what I'm hearing you say is it's okay that, re-entering a new phase of your life, you kind of not lost it, but you were just like in one energy and then trying to figure out how to get into another energy and had to figure it out, right? Going from one extreme to the other. And what do you think about this push, receive? Like, I think people get so confused with, I'm just not feeling it, therefore I'm not going to do it. Versus like sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I relate it to like birth. Like sometimes there's a contraction, it's very uncomfortable. You have to push. And then sometimes you just got to let the universe provide. Yeah. So what has your balance been with that? I don't like the word balance, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do a very good job. I don't think balance does not exist for me, but I agree with you with what you're saying, because it does get confusing with people talking about like just going with the flow and it being easy all the time, and it gets confusing because you're like, oh, should it be easy all the time? Like, should I feel inspired all the time? I do not feel inspired all the time. I do not feel passionate about things all the time. There's sometimes where I feel like it's just dreadful, but I just have to keep going. And I think a lesson I learned really early on, which has really helped me so much in business, is when I was 8, I asked for a clarinet for my birthday and my parents bought me one. And so I started to learn to play. And as the years went by, there were phases when I hated practicing. I got so fed up. I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to quit. And my dad would always be like, no, you need to keep going. Just keep at it. And I'd honestly throw like tantrums. I'd want to throw my clarinet at the wall. Like I just got so frustrated. But I would pull myself together, and I would practice and I'd practice and I'd practice and I'd practice. And within 7 years, I went from like barely being able to squeak the thing to playing Mozart's clarinet concerto and passing grade 8. And when I look and see, you can decide to do something and to become really good at something, but becoming really good at something requires so many, like, it requires so much effort, so much dedication, so much patience, so much practice. And there are going to be times when it physically hurts, and even if it hurts your head to comprehend what the heck it is you're supposed to do, but it requires you to go on a journey like deep within yourself of transformation to create that greatness, because greatness doesn't just happen. Greatness evolves within you because you are showing up for it, and you're putting in the work. And like I said, there's going to be days when you don't want to show up and do it, but you have to show up and do it anyway. And I really have taken that view in business. And don't get me wrong, there have been moments where I've completely fallen off the bandwagon, but my philosophy still is the same. Like, just as I knew how I could get good at the clarinet, and it was because I had a teacher, I learned how to do it, and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. Even when I didn't want to practice, I showed up and I did it. And it's the same if I want to become amazing at business and I want to create success at business. I have to practice and practice and learn and do things I want to do things that make me feel uncomfortable, do things that terrify me, and do things when I don't want to do it, and just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep showing up. And I think that's also like, people talk about consistency all the time, but if you want to be good at anything, you have to be consistent. And I just think like likening it to learning an instrument or learning a language helps us somehow, well, it helps me to really put things into perspective, because I can see how that process works for something as simple as learning a language. And it's exactly the same for building a successful business and living the life that you want. At least that's my philosophy on it.
Yeah. And I love this because, consistency isn't sexy, and people don't, like, what's the secret? Keep showing up. And for me, it was this all or nothing mentality, which I know a lot of people have, like ambition, right? Like, I'm on the couch, or the next day I'm running a marathon. And it's like, how about you get off the couch, the next day you put your shoes on? The whole Atomic Habits, like just piggyback. And I'm like, this is so slow. This is painful. But if you're just consistent, like success, whatever you want that to look like is inevitable. The interesting part about this conversation is I believe we all know what we want. Sometimes we just have to dig for it a little bit. So you've chosen to go after something, consistent with it, perseverance. And yet so many people are doing that on a daily basis with lives. Like they're being so radically consistent with lives that they don't want to have.
Yeah.
Showing up to that job every single day, staying in those relationships, just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And then going, why isn't anything changing? And it's like, you're not taking different action. So I want to shift. I could literally talk to you forever because I'm all about, oh my gosh, we just talk about so many things, manifestation, all of this. So this perseverance and consistency, you said something at the beginning, which you were saying you went to all these networking events and they were all men and you were like, this is not my tribe. These are not my people. Community. I did not know I was missing this until I started entering communities of women where I'm like, oh my gosh, these people have my back. Like they know me. These are my weirdo, holistic minded, woo-woo meditating, let's make magic happen people. And when you're surrounding yourself with that energy, anything is possible. So what have you noticed? You've created a humongous community and women supporting each other and learning and growing. What have you learned over the years of the importance of surrounding yourself with the right community?
I think it makes such a difference because you, like what you were saying, like the energy of the people that you surround yourself with has a magical impact. And I think that firstly, having a community around you, you're never alone and you've always got someone to go and ask a question and find the answers. Because I think one of the things that we often try and do is, we think that we have to have all the answers ourselves and then we have to figure it out all by ourselves, and we don't. And that is just the hard way to try and do it. And so I think when you tap into communities, you have the ability to grow and to move and to create momentum so much faster. And I also think, like, in the day and age we live in, and I think for the businesses that probably most of us are going to be creating, especially like here and everyone listening, I always say I'm not really building a business. I'm building a community. And that's what I'm building. I'm building a movement of people who believe in what I believe in, who want to stand by my side in what I believe in because they believe in it too. And I think that when you do that and you create your business from that perspective of community, of meaning and of standing for something, you can really create so much more success. And it has honestly helped me to make the Female Entrepreneur Association what it is. Because without that community, what would it even be? It would just be me. And I think you've got a voice, you've got a message. It's bringing those people together that also resonate with it and think, I completely believe in this too, and holding the space for those people. It's powerful. There's so many tools to do it now.
Yeah, it's interesting when you jump into, and I've watched this too through the pandemic, like watching how even gyms, like taking gyms as an example, how some are thriving online and some are not. And it goes to show the community that you had behind and how you showed up as a leader. And I want to briefly talk about that because this is something I'm really, really passionate about, because I talk a lot about conscious parenting and leadership and like who you need to become to leave that legacy, right? So your children are like, well, my mom didn't scream and yell at me. And, she did. Like, how do you want to be remembered in your memories? And I think when you're a community builder, you could say there's pressure and expectation, but for me, when I'm having those days and it's really difficult for me to show up for myself, I will show up for other people. I'll do that workout for other people. I'll eat, a healthy meal for other people because I know it affects my energy. Can you talk a little bit about the becoming or embodiment of what it takes to hold all those people in your community and really show up for them and cultivate a hearty, healthy group?
Well, I think there's so many different layers and levels of this, because on the one hand, you've got like the practical surface layer stuff, which is, you know, the way you make things feel, which can be through the language that you use, the words that you use, the way you make something look and feel in terms of like the fonts and the colors. Like all of that has such a huge impact in terms of like the visual experience that people have. So for me, for example, I got really intentional. Someone once asked me, who do you want to be to your audience? I was like, what do you mean, who do I want to be? And he said to me, well, I always think of myself as the uncle. I'm like the fun uncle for my audience. And I was like, oh, I never really thought about this. And it made me realize that I wanted to be the best friend. I didn't want to be the expert that was 5 steps ahead. I wanted to be in the trenches next to her and with her, and for her to feel like she truly had a real connection with me, and that it was close, and that they knew me. And so in having that clear in my mind, I knew how I had to show up in the community, and I knew the kind of language that I would use, because I would use the same language with a friend. So for example, I'm not going to write a post or an email if it's not really something that I would send to a best friend. And the same when I wrote my book. I wrote my book in a way that I wanted people to feel like I was their best friend. And it's funny because I cannot tell you how many people have said, I read your book and I honestly feel like you're my best friend. And I'm like, that was no accident. And I think when you build your community, you have to get so intentional about that and how you want people to feel. And like I said, even simple things like language, like I'll use words all the time like lovely and amazing and wonderful, and words that have, like, to me, they have a feeling, they have an emotion attached to them. And I am intentional about weaving that throughout my community with intention. So that's at one level. And then on another level that's more woo-woo.
I love woo-woo. We love woo-woo here.
I feel like the energy that I create. So firstly, my energy for my community is just, I care so much for them. Like, this isn't about making money for me, and it never has been. This is about just being there to help other people and to make a difference in this world. And I really, really care about that. And I think that when you care about something, you're passionate about something, that energy shows up. And so, for example, like even taking a moment to just be really grateful for my community, I think that energy goes out into the community, and I think that they feel it. And well, I believe that they feel it, and I feel like that also counts for something. But there'll be times when I close my eyes and I imagine the community, and I imagine this white light coming from me and like surrounding my community. I imagine this white light, you know, seeping out into the room, into the house, into the garden, and then going further and further until it's like literally around the world in my mind, and it's reaching whoever it needs to reach, and it's connecting with my community, and that they feel that, and that I'm sending them like all of the energy to create success and to feel inspired and to feel empowered and to feel cared for and to feel supported. And so I honestly just think that we are such powerful creators and we're such powerful manifestors, and our energy is so impactful that when we start to really think about that stuff and we get intentional about it and we send out our energy like that, I don't doubt that that makes such a difference. And that is obviously on a woo level, but that's the kind of stuff I do.
Yeah. And we say, oh, such a noisy chair. We say woo besides the chair. I was like, oh, and then my grandpa popped into my head because it's his chair. So that's why I sit on it, because he was like a magical human to me. But the woo-woo, I mean, everyone knows, regardless if you want to admit it to yourself or not. We know what it's like. We know what we feel like after we watch the news. We know what we feel like when you walk into a room and, you know, there's somebody angry on the other side. You're just, you know, with nobody around them because it's repelling. And it's, you know, for whatever reason, you get to a point in your life when you realize you matter. I say this all the time as a parent, like, you matter, your energy matters. Like, if you're in a bad mood, your kids are pinging off of that. Like, they're picking it up. They have like this spider sense, and vice versa. And everything is just being mirrored back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And community is the exact same thing, which is why I believe that if you're thriving, like, you're giving permission to everybody else around you to do the same. So if you're
Yeah.
building a community of successful, abundant female entrepreneurs, you have to become what you desire for them to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like even what you're saying about relating it to home, it's like at home, for example, we have quotes all over the place that happened really organically. And then one day I realized that around our house, the sayings are like good vibes, being happy, everything about smiling. It's all about being smiley and happy and positive. And that is what this house feels like. And that is what we're so intentional about. And it's the same in a community, like the inspirational quotes that we'll share, that we're like literally essentially putting our stake in the ground and saying, this is what we're going for here. Like, this is the vibe here. This is how we all want to feel, and using the power of words and an expression to really create that bond between us all as a community. And I think it's important, like, to do it for every aspect of your life, like you're talking about with children. Like, when I got married, I realized I always create workbooks for my business, and I'll sit down and I'll create a success plan. But I was like, well, if I create a success plan for my business, why don't I do this for my relationship?
Mm-hmm.
So when we got married, I created this like family handbook, and it was literally going through and stating what our family mission statement was, and what our family values were, and, you know, what our goals were, what our dreams were, how we wanted to be, like who we strive to be as people, and what meant the most to us, and all this stuff. And from that has just helped us to get so much more intentional about like the energy of our home, and how, like, the lessons and the things we want to teach to Casey. And it makes such a difference, because I always, like with anything, we have to become intentional creators for the life that we want to live. And when you are that way, it's magical what you can bring into your life.
I love this. Wouldn't that be, my husband gets annoyed. He's definitely, I'll hear him upstairs. He'll say, we need to realign this energy. Like, he'll say things like that, but he would never admit to it. And it's like water on a rock. Like, you know, if your partner is not into personal development, they will be by just your energy eventually.
Yes, seriously.
I see it all the time. But there's something that you said, oh gosh, I'm losing it. Oh yes, that's what it is. So we'll wrap it up. I want to talk about where, you know, your community, where people can, like, when they can join the community, how that looks, because I think it's a great stepping point for people, especially now, right now, what's going on in the world of, like, people are like, oh man, you know, this is the sign from the universe. I need to be all in. This is my disgust moment, maybe, or whatever that is for people. But before I do that, I want to ask you, Carrie, when you look back, like, how do you want people to remember you? How do you want your children to, like, my mom was this?
It's like, especially for them, like, I want them to be able to, I want to act in a way that makes them believe that they can just go for whatever they want, and that they truly believe in themselves, and they believe that so much is possible, and that life is magical, and they feel inspired and empowered to go for it. And I also want them to think and to know that I was a kind person. And so I think those things, I think in life, to be kind and really care and to really love, but to also have the courage to go for our own dreams and to show up as who we truly want to be. So I hope that that's what they would take away.
And I love how it's simple. I didn't hear anything in there of, you know, they wore matching clothes. They remember all of these things, all of these, like, things that come from the ego that we try so hard to control. It's like, I just want them to know they were loved. I want them to know that they could be themselves, and that, you know, they could come to me, that my energy was open and I wasn't an awful raging bitch.
Yeah.
We all have our moments, but then we can apologize. I actually, when I started talking about this stuff with my community, I'm like, how many of us heard I'm sorry from our own parents? Not very often. I'm like, just apologizing for your behavior is such a transformational experience.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so what do you have coming up? What is Carrie doing in 2020? And, where can people find more of you?
What am I doing in 2020? I mean, one of the biggest thing I'm working on at the moment is an app, which I'm really excited about because it feels so exciting and it feels so new. So yeah, that. And
what kind of app? What will that be about?
Well, it was an idea that popped into my head in 2018. I desperately wanted to try and find someone to help me with Instagram, and I was like, I've got this really massive community. Like, why don't I have something that makes it easier for me to actually go and find who are the Instagram experts, who might be a really good fit, who could I reach out to that I would want to work with, rather than posting out in the Facebook group and it being a bit hit and miss to whether the people who I needed to see it saw it. So I was like, why don't I make something which would connect like women who are building businesses in a way that they can work together, they can connect, they can chat, they can meet up. Because I was like, if you go to, like, I've been to conferences before in like San Diego and like haven't known anyone. And I thought, like, if I could meet up with other people within FEA there easily, and that would be amazing. So basically the app is to go hand in hand with the membership, really, but just to be that next level of connection in a really intelligent way so that we can work more deeply together and connect with more ease. And because I think when you're building business and just in life in general, connection is everything. Like, it makes such a difference. So yeah, just the app's about making that easier. So I'm so excited.
That's so cool. And if you're traveling all over the place, you're like a part of the community. Who's with me? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Around the area. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about
So
that.
tell us a little bit about the community. When does enrollment open? What is FEA for those who are not?
So we have a launch in June. We actually have it open at the moment, but in the launch we've got a special bonus going on. So that's in June, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. We've been making a lot of changes on the inside and just trying to create a better experience and new features. So I'm really excited about that.
That's amazing.
So yeah.
And what's the website? Where can they go for quick access to see the page and join?
It's just femaleentrepreneurassociation.com, the longest URL in the world. But yeah, that's
you could Google it and it will pop up.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, entrepreneur is like the hardest word to spell.
Seriously.
But it's all right. You could just talk it into your phone and the URL will come right up.
Yeah.
Carrie, thank you so much. This is an amazing conversation, and it feels like just a tiny piece of the energy and amazing connection that can happen in the community. So for those, can you just explain briefly, so if people are like, tell me more, who is a part of this community, and just in a nutshell of like what they can get to experience. And I know it's also extremely affordable.
So it's specifically for women who have an idea or a dream to do something, deep down that you want to like explore the option of starting an online business, or you already have a business and you want to be able to grow it. So it's basically like a bit of a one-stop shop for kind of really getting started and getting it off the ground. We've actually just kind of been building out some phases inside of it. So it's kind of like taking you from like being a dreamer to actually getting started to then kind of getting into that kind of go phase of like just in it, immersed in it, building your audience, all that kind of stuff, to then actually generating revenue, building those revenue streams through a course or a membership or service-based business coaching, that kind of thing. And then we work with amazing experts like you. I'm so excited about your masterclass. So we'd have masterclasses with amazing people. There's a community. We do like virtual meetups and live coaching calls, and there's just a lot going on.
Is it just for online business, or can you have brick and mortars as well?
We actually do have brick and mortar businesses, but a lot of it is geared towards like, how do you tap into the power of the internet? But for example, like your masterclass is is relevant for anyone running any type of business. And there's a lot on like mindset and personal development and like all that kind of side of things too. So it's just a really lovely group of people. So if you kind of like getting started and you really want to create success with a business, then it's kind of like just a great little, I suppose, membership community to have in your pocket.
Well, I think I love the idea and the concept and what you have available, because you even have experts like Amy Porterfield inside. So people who have been around the block for a very long time and utilizing the relationships that you have built in your own journey. The interesting part about the internet, so people think you're either online or you're offline. I just purchased $400 of houseplants because I've become obsessed with houseplants over Instagram DM with some rando local who, 3 of my friends were like, just bought a plant. And I was like, she had her system down pat. And I'm like, I guarantee you she's probably in her 20s. And the reason why I'm saying this is because so many people are not utilizing the power of the internet for either. You don't have to be a coach. You can be a coach. Yes, you can do online, but brick and mortar and just being able to jump outside of the box, I still think is a very new, like people aren't utilizing that for some reason. Yeah. And you could sell a lot in an Instagram DM.
Seriously. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I don't have to leave my house. And I'm like, show me the plant. Great. It'll be on my doorstep tomorrow.
That is really good. Well, it is such a powerful tool, the internet, for any type of business to leverage, really.
Exactly. We're not doing snail mail anymore. I mean, now I do that. I send like thank you letters and stuff, but we're not looking at the flyers. It's like, it's not going anywhere. So Carrie, thank you so much for pushing through the fear and becoming the woman that you are today to make a bigger impact in the world, because it's making an impact in mine. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I love, love, love Carrie. She is so sweet, so generous, and just someone with this, persistence to not only make a bigger impact in the world, but continuously giving her dreams permission to come to life. And I really value that, because I hear from a lot of women just not giving themselves permission to want what they want. So this is your last call. We have the bonuses for the vision planning session and the money mastery course that we are going to be doing in the fall as we take the next round of people who are applying for Mastery and Mastery 2.0. So again, Mastery is all about helping you personally, and Mastery 2.0 is helping you personally and professionally. So if you head on over to heatherchauvin.com/take back control, you're going to see a little video at the top talking more about the program, the bonuses. The bonuses are only included if you apply before the actual due date. So the first bonus ends on Monday. So depending on when you're listening to this, the first bonus ends on Monday, July 27th. And that is the vision planning session. So if your application is in before midnight Eastern Standard Time, and the second bonus expires Wednesday, July 29th at midnight Eastern Standard Time. Again, all you have to do is check out the video at heatherchauvin.com/take back control. And fill out the application, and we will be in touch.
I literally pressed send on my credit card information, stepped away from my computer. I had a shower, and in the shower, it was literally like 30 minutes after making this investment with Heather, and it was just like crystal clear what I was supposed to do, what I was meant to do, and immediately started writing, what my business is now today.